on this week's delicious episode of the Fine Dining Podcast. This is the worst burger I have ever had in my life.
I agree with you. Okay, let's go zero.
You're going
I'm going
zero on White Castle.
Dead zero.
There was nothing redeeming about this experience.
Nothing redeeming about it.
From this point forward, the word cheese will be bleeped because Michael finds it offensive.
Hello, and welcome to the Fine Dining Podcast, Septemburger edition. This show is normally the search for the most mediocre restaurant in America, but this month, Septemburger, I am looking for the best chain restaurant burger of the 8 that I have selected in this month's bracket. We're talking In-N-Out, Culver's, Shake Shack, White Castle, Rally's, Steak and Shake, and 2 others, Freddy's Frozen Custard and... Did I say Whataburger already?
Yeah, no, you didn't.
I didn't.
Nah.
Okay. But they are competing for the championship, the Septemburger Championship. Last year's winner, Outback Steakhouse with the Bloomin' Burger. You put a bloomin' onion petal on anything, I'm a happy boy. This year, it's anyone's game. I'm going all fast food. I'm going all regional chains so that I have to travel. And I traveled all the way to Las Vegas, Nevada, for this week's episode, White Castle. Now, the closest White Castle to me in Los Angeles is here in Las Vegas, so I am joined by Las Vegas's own and the host of the Visit Vegas Places podcast, Coyal Harrison.
Thank you.
How you doing?
Oh, man, I'm blessed. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me on the show also.
Yeah, of course. And thanks for hooking us up with this. We are shooting out of World of Wings, a wing spot, here in Las Vegas. It's in Henderson, technically.
Yep.
Yeah, so just outside of Las Vegas. We're just going to jump into it. I made you, a guy who goes to different small businesses in Las Vegas, I made you go to White Castle. Anything but a small business. This is a corporate joint. And I'm asking you to review, I guess, what you legally could call a burger.
Yeah.
Maybe.
It felt like a relapse.
It felt like a relapse. So we'll get into that. But if you're watching this show for the very first time, since this is a Septemburger episode, I'm putting this all together with Eat Deets and the Yelp reviews. But we do judge restaurants based on their atmosphere,
based on their service,
and based on their food. Well, in this case, I wouldn't say but you know. Yeah.
Fine dining party of 2.
We'll get right to it. Our table is in fact ready.
Eight burgers enter, 1 burger leaves. Take a look at the menu, nothing but beef. So fire up that grill and fry up your soul. We're looking for something that's better than mediocre. It's time for a burger September. Yes, it's time for the test. There can only be one victor of a burger September. Yeah, we're looking for some perfection. Just be the best burger that you can be. Somewhere between heaven and ecstasy. I can see that hunger, it's in your eye. You're going for glory with a side of fries. Septemburger!
All right, Coyal, do you know a lot about the history of White Castle?
Not really. I don't at all. Keep in mind, my experience with White Castle was when they first came here, which was, I'll say like 5 to 8 years ago, I want to say.
Yeah.
But my experience for anything near White Castle was a place called Crystals. So I guess Crystals is in a southern area.
They're very similar,
Yeah, same kind of thing. And that was the only experience I had.
And they're also sliders, right?
Same menu, exact same menu.
Same menu.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna read you some Eat Deets. We're gonna jump into this week's Eat Deets and find out all about where White Castle came from and where it went from there.
Sounds good.
Eatery details.
Walt Anderson, a short-order cook in Wichita, Kansas, liked to experiment with the size and shape of the hamburger patties he served. His greatest invention, though, was said to have occurred by accident. One day, Anderson became so frustrated when the meatballs he was cooking kept sticking to the griddle that he smashed one with a spatula, and thus the flat patty was born.
Oh, wow.
I can honestly tell that White Castle was born out of rage.
Right.
like, based on what we ate today.
But you said it was a meatball. Why can't we use that same meatball meat? Because the meat they have now is...
Honestly, look, this might be a controversial take, but I'm not the biggest meatball supporter.
Okay.
This did taste kind of close to like a canned spaghetti-o meatball smashed up and served to you in a slider.
Right.
Walt Anderson also pioneered fast food in America. In 1916, Anderson opened up a hamburger stand with an $80 loan and quickly expanded to 4 locations. W.E. Billy Ingram, a local real estate broker who would eventually become the company's CEO, bought in, and in 1921 they established a chain of small, efficiently run restaurants selling 5-cent burgers by the sack.
Wow.
White Castle is widely credited as the first fast food concept in America.
Imagine needing the $80 loan just to start your business.
$80 and you get
You're starting
this shit. Well, I mean, Pizza Hut was started with, I think it was a $600 loan or a $1,200 loan. It was in that vein.
Wow.
It was just like borrowed from parents.
Right. Wow. Like, I wouldn't even buy the idea nowadays.
No, you would get laughed out of a room if you're like, I've got $80.
Let's start this business.
Let's dive into the deep end. Any takers? Even in 1916, people had the crave. They really do market themselves on the crave.
Right.
According to David G. Hogan's book, Selling 'Em by the Sack, Anderson, while working at his original burger stand, noticed several young boys who regularly bought sacks of hamburgers. Thinking this odd, he decided to investigate and followed a young patron. I don't think you can do that.
Wow.
Follow a young boy as he walked down the street around the corner and made a delivery into the open door of a limousine.
Wow. Now that's hard research. See, that's how you have to research back in the days where we could just type in, one word. Back then you had to really do footwork.
This seems like an actual Hamburglar situation. There's like a Monopoly guy sitting in the back of a limo.
That's serious research.
and this guy's like, why are these young boys bringing burgers to this man? Follow them. You can't do that.
The root cause. He needs the root cause.
White Castle was the first fast food chain to sell 1 billion burgers. White Castle's 1 billionth burger was purchased in 1961, 2 years before McDonald's cleared the same benchmark.
Right.
I don't know if it counts as much with White Castle because they're so tiny. You can sell a billion of something if you make it so tiny that you have to eat like 7 just to...
Right, because when you think about it, 4 of those tiny burgers will equal 1 McDonald's burger.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. So
yeah. The name was meant to counter the bad rap hamburgers had at the time. Exposés like Upton Sinclair's The Jungle and commentary like Frederick J. Schlink's Eat, Drink, and Be Wary portrayed hamburger beef as unsafe, if not downright poisonous. To give their burgers a pristine image, Ingram and Anderson combined 2 words together that conveyed purity and solidarity. White Castle's design was inspired by the Chicago Water Tower. The Windy City landmark, which was one of the few buildings that survived the Great Chicago Fire of 1871, was a model for White Castle's turret and tower design.
Wow.
Which, if you guys don't know the White Castle logo, I'll put it on screen here so you can see that, but it's a very recognizable, iconic, very few chain restaurants have that castle or fortified look. Even Burger King, which inspires royalty and you think kings and castles, doesn't really go with the castle route.
Correct.
They go with the crown.
It lures the kids in also. So it lures the kids in. And I wonder, was the thought due to the food is the way it is that when they came up with White Castle, was it more of a tourist site than more of a service of food type? I
think it sounds like it was the first fast food concept. So it was a restaurant first, because I don't think of White Castle as a touristy spot. It's got, even the one we went to, which we'll get to later, had merch.
Yes.
It literally had like, I've attended a White Castle. Let me commemorate this with a lunchbox.
Right.
Yeah. White Castle had side businesses making their own buildings and paper hats. Ingram wanted his restaurant to be a small, inexpensive, and quick to build and take down. So in 1934, he started his own subsidiary, Porcelain Steel Buildings, to make the lightweight porcelain and steel structures.
Wow. This guy was pretty clever. I wish you would have put that same energy into the actual
the
ingredients.
recipe.
Yeah.
During World War II, PSB, Porcelain Steel Buildings, did its part by manufacturing amphibious vehicles, the ones that can drive into the water.
Yeah.
The company also bought manufacturer Paper Linen, Paperlynen. I'm going to assume that's Paper Linen.
Mm-hmm.
In 1932 to make the paper hats White Castle employees wore. Because why not, you know? Realizing it had a profitable business on its hand, White Castle started taking orders from other food service establishments, and by 1964, they were selling more than 54 million caps annually.
Wow.
So I think White Castle may have been responsible for that big explosion of car hops always having those hats. Like, you think Johnny Rockets, you think Krispy Kreme.
Old school diner.
You think the old school diner, and you think those paper hats. So I wonder how much, it says by 1964, that's right in that era where they probably had their hands in all of that.
Exactly. And you said they sold these hats, correct?
They sold these hats.
So
they did them for themselves. And then, they sold them for like commercial use from companies whose uniform required it.
Oh.
Yeah.
So they were making the merch for other companies, basically. Wow. This guy's... Are you serious?
He's a savvy dude.
Man.
Yeah. Even though White Castle was founded in Wichita, the company doesn't currently maintain any locations within the Sunflower State. White Castle's headquarters were relocated to Columbus, Ohio in 1934. But to celebrate the brand's 90th birthday, a temporary White Castle shop was set up in Wichita for one day only on May 19th, 2011.
Wow.
Proceeds were donated to the Kansas Food Bank. They donated the proceeds to the food bank. I thought they were saying that like the leftover burgers. If I were that food bank, I'd be like, no, thank you.
Right.
Pass. Today's White Castle slider is pretty much the same as the original recipe. This does taste like something that's 100 years old.
I can imagine.
Yeah. Anderson's original hamburger involved cooking a small beef patty over shredded onions, then sliding it onto a bun instead of between slices of bread. About 100 years later, not much has changed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the concept of a hamburger is meat between buns.
Right.
But, they could season it more or
it was kind of bland. And then I also saw the way they were cooking it, the process of it. I was wondering, how does the meat get done? I think you got to tell them
on the griddles and back.
Yeah. Also, some weren't really done all the way. I don't know if you noticed that in the burgers. A lot of them weren't done all the way through.
I assume that's how they meant it to be.
I think so too.
Yeah, I think that's like their way of doing it.
God.
Which is, you want your burger rare.
You're right.
But it's a meatball, like a rare meatball sound.
But especially if it's processed, I want it done. It's not restaurant quality.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I want to burn anything that's living.
In 1954, a White Castle employee named Earl Howell, who worked at the company's Cincinnati location, suggested that the now iconic patties would cook faster if they were punctured with a series of little holes. Today, all White Castle hamburgers are prepared in this fashion with 5 holes apiece. So they look like the surface area of a Ritz cracker.
Correct.
Like the little
Punch
perforations.
The holes through them. Right. Okay.
And we actually own the patent on the machine that makes 5 holes, White Castle Vice President Jamie Richardson said in a 2017 interview with Thrillist. It's called a meat horn.
The meat horn.
Not everything doesn't need to be patented.
Correct.
Yeah. Vegetarians can order plant-based sliders. Unveiled in 2018, the meat-free Impossible Slider proved successful enough to join White Castle's core menu. White Castle teamed up with Impossible Foods, a meat substitute company based in Northern California, to do this. I didn't see it on the menu. I'm sure it's like you ask for it and they'll provide it. But
correct.
And I also didn't scour the menu. I kind of picked a couple of things that looked good. Cheeseburgers didn't appear on White Castle's menu until 1961. According to the company's official website, 41 years after opening our doors, we took a calculated risk and added our first new menu item, the cheeseburger, which is such a small risk to take. You're adding one ingredient to your slider. Now, listeners of my podcast know that cheese would scare me away, but I can just order without it. That's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's weird to count it as a whole separite menu item. Like, we took a risk.
I prefer not to have the too.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
On White Castle specifically or on
Correct.
burgers in general?
No, on the White Castles, no please. Yeah.
The White Castle slider has been named the most influential burger of all time.
Wow.
That's right, folks. In 2014, Time magazine correspondent Sarah Begley ranked the 17 most historically significant burgers ever conceived. The traditional White Castle slider beat out the Burger King Whopper, the In-N-Out Burger, and other worthy opponents for the top spot.
Wow.
Influential does not mean good.
Right.
It means influential. And I think just given that White Castle started fast food, that might explain it.
True, because you could be a famous actor, but doesn't mean you act well.
Right.
But everyone knows you.
Exactly.
Right.
Popular and good are different things.
Two different things. Yeah. And it reminds me kind of like, I remember back in the days, we used to go to Dodger Stadium to watch the Dodger games.
Yeah.
And they used to have the miniature bats. I don't know if they still do that.
I've seen them. I used to go to Wrigley Field and see.
So with
those
the
at Cubs
miniature
games.
bats, it was real cool to have, but no one's actually going to actually play with it. So it's like that. I would want to go see the burger, but I don't think I want to eat one.
Right.
Yeah.
White Castle's food is like a museum exhibit. You're like, oh, people actually eat this?
Perfect way to put that.
White Castle has a Craver Hall of Fame. They call their like famous patrons cravers, or even just their patrons.
Okay.
To honor its most devoted diners, White Castle established its Hall of Fame in 2001. More recent inductees include an Army soldier who took 50 sliders all the way to Germany, and a couple who collectively lost 200 pounds eating sliders.
Wow.
I'm guessing because it makes you throw up?
You have to. What did he do, I wonder, when he got to Germany with those? Somebody's in the hospital.
Grounded into a sausage. Yeah.
Hey, that's, man, I can imagine the form it turns in once, it's done.
Yeah.
That process, all of it together is like, wow, crazy.
Yeah.
Surprised he made it.
Alice Cooper is in that Hall of Fame as well. According to White Castle, Cooper became a fan during his childhood in Detroit, and the crave stayed with him throughout his career, and he based tour dates and concerts around the locations of White Castle restaurants.
Wow.
That's an insane thing to do.
True fan.
Yeah. And now for probably the most culturally relevant piece of White Castle history, at least to the younger generations. In 2004, Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle was released. Originally, the stoner comedy was supposed to be about the pursuit of Krispy Kreme donuts.
Right.
But the food was changed to burgers after Krispy Kreme refused to allow the film to use their name. White Castle in particular was chosen because screenwriter John Hurwitz used to crave them while living in Pennsylvania for several years. At the time, Pennsylvania did not have any White Castle locations, and Hurwitz had to have family members bring him frozen White Castle burgers from New Jersey.
Now that's pure comedy.
Oh! You hear that?
Right, yeah.
Coyal, you have unlocked the secret menu minigame. You've said the hidden word of the episode, comedy. Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle.
Right.
Classic comedy movie. That was going to be the secret word. So the way this is going to work, to play the secret menu, we're just going to rattle off a bunch of jokes to the category comedy restaurants.
Okay.
Examples being TGI Friday After Next or Big Mama's House of Pancakes.
Okay.
But you at home can play along. Comment your comedy restaurants below, and I'll pick my favorite one for the next episode, and you can win a free fine dining t-shirt. And the winner of this week's secret menu mini game goes to my friends over at Two in the Cooler podcast for their submission for the category vehicular goodies, roadkill bassa, like roadkill. Go ahead, DM me on Instagram or TikTok, or send me an email, finediningpodcast@gmail.com, and I will get you your free fine dining t-shirt sent your way. Everyone else, thanks for playing, and better luck this week. All right, Coyal, I'm going to go first. We'll get started in 3, 2, 1. Walk Hardee's, the Dewey Cox story.
The Burger King of comedy.
Benny Honolulu's guy in 10 days. That's stupid.
How about Macaroni Grilly Madison?
Bojangle all the way.
Ooh.
You know Bojangles?
Yes.
Yeah.
How about Caddy Shake Shack?
Shoney, I Shrunk the Kids.
That was my favorite movie.
Oh, yeah?
How about breakfast? Me, myself, and IHOP.
Dumb and Dumpkin Donuts. That's my favorite comedy movie.
Man. White Chicks Filet.
The Longest, Johnest, Silverest Yard. That's stupid,
that's
right?
Stupid, yeah.
Okay, and that's time. So that does it for the secret menu. Comment below with your favorite comedy restaurant, one that we didn't get. Tell us who won between us. Whatever, play along. You can get a free fine dining t-shirt. Back to the Eat Deets. All right, the filmmakers for Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle received permission from White Castle in 2002 to use the chain's name in the film. One scene that depicted a White Castle being closed was changed at the request of the company's director of marketing. Because I don't know if they're all 24/7, but the one that we went to tonight was 24/7, and most of them are open very late, if not 24/7. In marketing Harold and Kumar, New Line Cinema turned a parking lot on Sunset Strip into a temporary White Castle for the 11 days before the film's release. The restaurant served 40,000 burgers to patrons, including Quentin Tarantino, Farrah Fawcett, and Jay Leno.
I remember that day vividly.
Were you there?
No, I wasn't there, but I remember when it happened because we were all begging for White Castle to come to California.
Did you live in California?
Yeah, I'm originally from California.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
And now you're a giant representative of Las Vegas.
Right. 21 years.
You've changed teams. You've gone from California to Vegas. You're literally the Raiders.
Basically.
Yeah. White Castle launched several promotions in tandem with the film's release. The restaurant chain featured beverage cups with pictures of Harold and Kumar. They also provided free hamburgers to moviegoers attending the film's premiere. Stars John Cho and Cal Penn were inducted into the company's White Castle Cravers Hall of Fame in 2004.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's the history of White Castle. That'll do it for this week's Eat Deets.
Every week on Talk Easy with Sam Fragoso, I invite an artist, writer, or politician to come to the table and speak from the heart in ways you probably haven't heard from them before. In recent weeks, I sat with Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Democratic strategist James Carville, director Richard Linklater, and musician and actor Maya Hawke. To hear those and more episodes of the show, listen on America's #1 podcast network, iHeart. Be sure to open up your free iHeart app and search Talk Easy with Sam Fragoso.
What it be, trivia lovers? It's your pal Ryan Buds, host of Trivia with Buds, a Monday through Friday pop culture podcast with episodes under 10 minutes to give your nostalgic brain a workout. With over 2,000 episodes, you're all set for fun and games on your next long flight, road trip, or weekend hangout with friends and family. Check out recent episodes on famous mullets, Dungeons & Dragons, classic cocktails, and tons more. And for info on virtual, in-person, and hybrid trivia, bingo, and game show events, go to my website, triviawithbuds.com. Cheers!
Atmosphere.
Okay, so the specific White Castle that we went to is the one off of the Vegas Strip. Do you know what casino it's right next to?
Yes, it's Casino Royale. So that's the Casino
Royale.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a part of that? Or it's like, that's the one that
separate.
is
it's just
right next to us?
it. And what they did is it used to didn't connect. So what they did to make it easier for everyone, you could just walk through as you notice each one and connect.
They've got the 5 holes in the patty. You walk through and you go.
There you go.
You end up in a
the new
shitty restaurant.
Because they don't want you to go out. They want you to stay there, if that makes sense.
And it's right next to a Denny's. I know there's an Outback down the street. There's a Fat Tuesdays. There's all these places you could go that are better than White Castle.
Correct.
I actually interviewed a woman. I was just like, excuse me, you're at White Castle at 12:30 p.m. on a Saturday. Are you drunk right now? And she was like, well, I'm halfway there.
Yeah.
She was like, we drank some Four Locos in the car. I was like, I don't think you're allowed to drink in the car. And she was like, don't use my face.
Typical Vegas.
But that's the clientele that a White Castle is attracting. And I feel like you can judge a restaurant based on the type of people that are going to that place.
Because if you think about it, if you're drunk and you're ready, like, in order for you to start over again, you have to barf. Now, what could you can help you? I mean, that can help you quicker. Yeah. So eat the White Castle and that'll help you quicker.
Yeah. Ugh. That's how you lose 200 pounds like that couple. Yeah. So the fact that this look, I'm not the type of person who gets overwhelmed too easily.
Right.
But all of the like nightmarish circus noises of a casino while I'm trying to eat and the food that I'm eating ends up being White Castle, it sent me to a state of anxiety. And I think all the bells and whistles at this White Castle, I'm going to give an award. I'm going to say it gets this week's This Is Way Too Much award.
This is
Coyal, would you agree with the sentiment that like it was a little extra to eat at this White Castle,
I have
right?
it on my notes, and it's funny too. You said that was the main thing I had is I have slot noise. You know, because well, to me, that's music to our ears. But I was thinking,
well, for you, it's like a Pavlovian response. Right. You may not even know, but they're training you to be a sleeper agent. You're just going to wake up out of your sleep after hearing a jackpot and just get up and kill the president or
and
something.
I was wondering, like, this could be traumatizing to someone else who doesn't understand the noise.
I'm not used to it.
Yes, and I was thinking that too. Like, somebody sitting here would be like, "What the heck is going on?"
I couldn't figure it out, and it was in fact way too much.
Yes.
Yeah, there's just it was a lot going on. It was a clientele where like everyone was, I feel like everyone had a vibe of we're kind of hiding our faces a little bit.
Right.
We don't want to be seen here. Yeah. This guy's filming stuff with his phone.
Right.
I'm just taking pictures of the decor, but they very clearly are like, this is a low point for me. Please don't document this.
Correct. Because you have to understand also in that area, what you mentioned with the neighboring establishment, that is probably the most inexpensive place within that neighborhood. So
is that true?
Correct.
On the strip?
Right there, even in that vicinity. There's nowhere you're going to get eats at that price right there, for like a $20
Yeah, I mean,
bill.
it was a very cheap meal.
Correct.
But it tasted it.
Right.
It tasted cheap.
Right. Yeah. Because there are people in there, they're not going for a taste. They just want to throw something on their belly or get something out their belly. Yeah.
Well, I mean, so a lot of people, and we'll get into this later, but a lot of people refer to I spoke ahead of myself, refer to White Castle as drunk person food.
Correct. Bar food. How we call it bar food.
Yeah. And it's just, I guess it hits the spot when your taste buds are in a different, on a different spectrum.
Right.
Yeah.
Not really coordinating correctly.
No. Now, the merch window did tickle me. I do think it's just inherently funny that a fast food restaurant is like, you can get a lunchbox, a hoodie, a visor, a magnet, a lanyard.
Right.
I don't know. A lanyard's an odd thing to get
now
for White Castle, unless you work for them.
I like that because that's Vegas themed.
Yeah.
So basically, that was all Vegas themed to where you can get a souvenir anywhere. And again, in that area, that is probably the cheapest souvenir you can get. So if you think it's somebody who's
but it has White Castle on it, which ruins
Vegas
it.
Themed. If you notice that it was Vegas themed though, but White Castle.
I do have a fanny pack from Hooters that says Long Beach on it, so
And then on top, what was nice, it said, what did it say? Cater Nation.
Craver Nation.
Craver Nation. I'm sorry. It's Craver Nation, Raider Nation. So I like the theme. That's where they get it from to make you theme. Everything's themed.
All right. I see what they're doing. Marketing, branding.
Right. That's all it is.
Stupid.
Yeah. So you couldn't afford the Venetian nice souvenir, but you could come here to White Castle.
Just walk on down like, this is where you belong.
Right. Get a cup.
Yeah. Now, they had a couple signs in there. One, just a big neon, buy 'em by the sack.
Right.
A sack is the most inelegant sounding item to be like, would you like a sack of SpaghettiOs?
It depends on the sack you're talking about. That sack might taste better than the sacks that they're serving.
I guess, but just a sack in and of itself is like...
I know.
No, there is no Michelin star restaurant where they're serving you a sack of anything.
Not at all.
The only sack that I really would like to be handed is one of those with the $sign on it and like someone just robbed a bank, but it's like in a cartoon.
Right.
Those are the sacks that I want.
Because there's something in that quantity at that price, something's wrong.
Yeah.
There's going to be something that's going to happen that from the result of us eating all this sacks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something's going to happen. But it rings, it's funny. And again, it caters to their audience.
I don't know if they're trying to be funny with buy and buy the sack. I mean, I guess in the modern day, they've kind of picked,
Right.
you know, there's a scrotum thought that everyone has when they hear the word
Correct.
sack.
Buy them by the sacks. Right.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Everyone's giggling at it.
And then also it refers to like, you know, like, you're right. Why would I get one when I can just get a sack of them? Because I remember they didn't used to do that.
Oh,
The snack packs.
that plays on people's worst judgment.
It does.
If you're like, oh, why would I just get one? No, trust me. Just get one and
That's
move
it.
on.
Yes.
Save
believe me.
yourself.
Yes.
You'll pay for
Right.
it later if
Right.
you get the sack.
Right. Because you're going to be throwing half of your sack away.
Yeah.
You will.
Now, there was one other thing in quotes. If you looked, there was like a banister on the back wall
Mhm.
where the line started. And there were a bunch of little quotes on there. And one of them was buy and buy the sack.
Right.
But the one that stood out to me said, the taste some people won't live without. It wasn't the taste some people can't live without. You know,
Right.
sometimes you hear that, like, oh, I can't live without it. It's a hyperbolic way of saying, like, oh, I really like it.
Right.
I crave it.
Right.
But won't live without? You refuse
Right.
to carry on without it. That's a peculiar phrasing. And it
Right.
makes me wonder a question, Coyal. It makes me ask a very particular sequence of words. It makes me wonder, what's going on over there?
What's going on over there? What's going on over there? Should I worry? Should I care? What is going on over there?
So, Coyal, what is going on in there? Why won't people live without White Castle?
My take on that right there is
Yeah.
that's the prime example if reverse psychology was a marketing quote.
Their food is so shitty that they're like trying to hypnotize you and be like, no,
Right.
you won't live without it.
Right.
They're like, I guess.
You can't live without it.
Yeah,
You can't.
they're like there's just subliminal messaging. You see sentence upon sentence upon sentence. I think if you like look between the lines in like the
You're
negative space,
hypnotized.
it says
Yeah.
it's passable, and it's like, stop lying to me,
You're
White Castle.
hypnotized by that time.
You know what you are. Yeah, I think there is something to that. They're using reverse psychology
Gotcha.
marketing on you,
Most definitely.
and so by that vein, buy them by the sack is actually a warning.
Correct.
They're saying do not.
Do not.
Everything's
do this.
kind of the opposite
Yes.
at a White Castle.
There you go.
Not
Reverse-
everything's quite right. I think we figured it out. That is, in fact, what's going on over there.
What is going on over there?
All right, so that's everything for the vibe of this place. Just people that don't inspire a lot of confidence. I mean, the place was clean enough, and like the merch was shiny and nice. The
Right.
lighting wasn't depressing. The decor was whatever.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but when you're comparing this against the nicest restaurant you've ever been to, I don't even think this is a neutral experience. This is,
No.
you know, especially with the ringing of the casino, this
Right.
is a slightly sad experience. I'm not going a full 2 thumbs down, but I am going to give 1 thumb down to
Yeah.
the atmosphere of a White Castle. How about you?
I think I concur with you with
Yeah.
the 1 thumb down.
Yeah.
Yes.
Same reasons?
Well, yeah, and then also to the fact of where it's like more of a tourist attraction. So I think people will get a kick out of going to see it and experiencing it.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I think somebody will really just want to experience and buy the burger and not even eat it, just to get the experience.
Just for an
Like,
Instagram
I was
photo,
there,
throw
there
it
you go.
straight in the
Yeah,
toilet
yeah,
or trash.
Mm-hmm. Basically, almost what you did.
I mean, I ate half of a slider,
Right.
but I
yeah,
couldn't keep going.
I know. I know.
You were there.
I know.
You experienced what I experienced. Yeah. No, not a good decor, not good food. We'll get to that.
Right.
But yeah. All right, let's move on.
Service.
So, Coyal, the service here. Honestly, it was so quick.
Right. Right.
And like efficiency is a good thing.
Correct.
But there's no rapport being built. You're not like joking back and forth with your waiter. You're not developing a friendship like you do when you go to a sit-down restaurant and you get those repeat trips. Like, to me, those are nicer dining experiences with the service. Those are the positive things. This, to me, was kind of the definition of a neutral, flat service experience.
Correct.
They did their job. They did nothing bad. They didn't do anything exceptional. To me, no thumbs up or down. I'm just right in the middle on service.
Yeah, and actually, there was just real bland with it. They didn't exceed expectations. They just did their job.
They did their job.
One thing that I'll give them a plus at is with it being on the strip, I don't know if you noticed, but a lot of customer service on the strip is more rushed. So if you go somewhere that you don't know what you're ordering or haven't been before,
they'll stress you out. They'll kind of put that pressure on you.
Come on, hurry up, we got a line. With him, he was still calm. Yeah. Even though we were asking questions and all that, he was real calm.
Yeah.
But he didn't have energy.
I also don't know if anyone was behind us at that time, though.
Right. But I saw him when we went back up, when I ordered the onion wings, there was a little line.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see his composure. And it was...
He held it? He held firm?
Did. He held it.
That's good.
Yeah, but it was still that,
right.
Would you like the burger? Or
Yeah, and I'm not praising you for not being... bad.
Right.
I'm praising you if you're good. So to me, again, neutral is the name of the game.
Right. And then another advice, what I would advise if you're looking at this White Castle and if you know on the Strip, it will be best due to the fact that you're on the Strip handling tourists and also locals do come, that I noticed a guy who was constantly cleaning up trash on the tables.
Yeah.
Just like it was kind of bothersome. Instead of, it would be different if he was cleaning up saying, hey, how was your meal? Was everything okay?
No, but it was just
he's just coming and taking like hurry. It would almost give the like hurry up and get out of here so more people could come in instead of
they're busting your food out of your hand as you're eating it.
We know you're not going to eat this. Believe me, we throw these away all the
just
time.
Swipe it.
There's actually a processor that makes more burgers out of the trash.
Oh, I would believe that. I would believe that.
It's patent too. That is patent.
That's the real meat horn. Okay, so if you're scoring this service with your thumbs, how are you thinking?
Middle. Like, that.
Yeah, just right in the middle.
Yeah, the middle. Yeah. I'll give it the middle. That little middle. Yep.
Cool.
Right in the sacks.
All right. Let's move on.
Oh, before you move on, also, I want to give White Castle a plus, give them their flowers because of the transit situation. Of course, in Las Vegas, we do have transits, and I like the way that
the unhoused.
Yeah, unhoused, or they might be homeless, or they just might be out there on their luck and stuck in Vegas.
Yeah.
And I like how they handled them, where they didn't single them out.
Yeah.
They treated them like regular customers. They didn't rush them out or made it a scene that they were in there. And I like how they handled that.
I didn't notice that. See? I mean, the direction I was facing was pretty much the door. Mm-hmm. So, that's a nice note. I mean, I'm very big on, just let people be places.
Right. Right.
So, okay.
Yeah. So they did a good job at that.
That's a good note.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
Food. Yummy.
Okay, so moving on to the food. If you can call it that.
Okay.
I mean,
right. That's
where do I even start? So this is a Septemburger episode. And for Septemburger, I'm scoring burgers.
Right.
And they're in a competition. It's a single elimination tournament. White Castle is up against Shake Shack, the number 8 seed versus the number 1 seed. Is White Castle going to advance? Stay tuned. If you can tell from how we have talked about it, you probably know the answer. But we're gonna end on burger. We're gonna start with all the other things. So for sides, they don't really have starters, but they've got sides. So there's Crinkle Fries. Did you get the fries?
I did get the fries.
My take on these was that they were chalky.
They were chalky and they weren't consistent.
They weren't consistent. Some were mushy. Some
were hard.
You could tell that they just keep adding new fries onto this batch and then they scoop from there and you don't know which is which. Was this the old batch? Was this the new batch?
Because some were super hard that I know have been sitting up for a while.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. These weren't good fries. I'm not going to say I hated them. These weren't abomination. I've had bad fries before, but I mean, even a bad fry is okay for a food. So I'm going to give this a 4 out of 10. It doesn't get it's not complimentary,
correct,
but a 4 out of 10. 4 to 6 is your mediocre range. It's the low end of mediocre to me.
You did better than me. I gave them 3 actually.
You gave them a 3 out of 10?
3 on the fries, and because I have to put too many salt packages on it.
Yeah. So for you, if you have to modify it in any way,
yes,
it's a note against. Okay.
And also, they weren't consistent. Again, there were so many different kinds. I was literally scrolling through the fries to find the good ones.
Yeah.
The recent cooked ones.
Yeah. Oh, this is golden brown.
Right.
This is from yesterday.
Right.
Yeah. All right, and then chicken rings. They have really weird, they do have onion rings, but they have chicken rings and onion chips.
Right.
So these onion chips, they were basically bloomin' onion petals without any spirit.
Correct.
I love the Bloomin' Onion from Outback
I
Steakhouse.
do too.
I think it's the perfect restaurant appetizer. These were that without the fun seasoning. These were
Right.
that without the tasty sauce.
It's like they dropped the onion in dirt.
And they were like, that's good enough to serve. Look, I feel bad because this episode is just us punching down on White Castle, but they earned it.
They did. They definitely earned it.
This is the offering they put out.
Yeah.
These were just not
Right.
good.
No, they weren't.
So again, this is going to be where like I sound nice. Like, look, an onion ring type thing, a fried thing with onion in it is just a tasty treat.
True.
I'm still going 4.5 out of 10.
All
I'm
right.
not in the pits with these,
Right.
but for what it is, that's about as low as it can go. When the Bloomin' Onion
Definitely.
is a 10,
Right.
the worst of that kind of thing is around like a 4.5 to me.
I would definitely give those chips. I was in the range of 4 also. I actually have the 4 down for it. That 4, the onion was good. Why I gave it a 4? Because of the onion. I can tell it was a thick quality onion in there.
Yeah.
The breading was horrible. The breading
Yes.
that they used was definitely horrible. But not only that,
It broke right off of the onion.
right. And then
Yeah.
they give it to you plain. So there's no sauce like an onion sauce. You know how usually it comes with the either modify that taste of the bread.
Even though the episode came out a few months ago on Patreon, I had Freddy's frozen custard. Have you had it before?
Yes.
They have a fry sauce
Perfect.
and they have
example.
a jalapeno fry sauce.
Perfect
That
example.
is such a good sauce.
It is. I love both.
And
of
like, look, you're saying like, oh, I had to salt the fry or I had to pepper or whatever. To me, the sauces are freebies, especially if you offer like your own restaurant's
Correct.
signature version. Put on everything. If it's tasty, that's just
Right.
White Castle's got nothing of it.
When they came up with the idea of onion chips, why don't we have an onion chip sauce?
Yeah.
You know, that specifically pairs with
that.
that. Right.
Yeah, the not good. 4.5 out of 10. You said 4, right?
Correct.
All right. So now chicken rings. I don't know what they're trying to do with this.
Right.
It looks like kind of a real thick onion ring filled with chicken with McNugget meat, basically. And honestly, McNugget might be better. It tasted like a freezer aisle chicken.
You said it. They should have had dinosaur
Just as a ring.
nuggets. You might as well
They
have
should have been dinosaur shapes. Yeah.
You might as well just give me dinosaur nuggets.
Yeah, that's funny. And then, you eat it, and look, like these are layups.
Right.
Fried chicken,
Right.
fried onions, French fries.
Right.
Those are all things that should be scoring 7, 8,
That's right.
9.
Yeah.
Maybe 10 if they're like, moi. But like they're not.
They're not.
How are they failing at these things that are easy
I think
to
it's
do
the
well?
quality.
So again, on the chicken rings, I'm going 4 out of 10.
The chicken rings are definitely a 3 for me because it's something I can do at home.
Sure.
Go to a
No,
Crozier.
it's not something you can do at home. You can do it better.
True. I
You
can't
wouldn't
do, it
do
better.
this at
You're
home.
right. I would do it better. Yeah. My kids, I think, would eat my dinosaur nuggets before White Castles any day.
Yeah, even if it's low effort, you throw them in a baking sheet.
I was about to say in the oven. They hate that.
And then you can take that very chicken and put it on a slider. Now, the one compliment I'll kind of give White Castle is the bun for the slider
Oh, yeah.
was,
Oh, yeah.
nice enough.
Right.
So the chicken slider was an upgrade, I thought, over the chicken rings.
Yes.
You take that, it is the same source. It's an elementary
Same
school
thing.
cafeteria.
Mhm.
That's what this chicken patty is.
Correct.
Inside of their bun, I didn't hate it. I wasn't mad about it. You put a little bit of ketchup on it, but again, it needs the ketchup. It's not like it's optional.
No, yeah,
It needs it to be
does.
tolerable.
It does.
Or some
It
sort of
does.
sauce.
Yes.
But this chicken slider, it was unimaginative, but slightly better. So if I went 4 out of 10 on the chicken slider, I'm going to go 4.01 out of 10
Okay.
just on principle of this chicken slider, just for the bread. But
Makes sense.
I don't know. You know what? I actually feel like I'm being too generous. I'm gonna dock 2 points from both of those. I'm gonna go 2.01 out of 10. Up your chicken game, White
That's
Castle.
right. That's right.
Up your why am I being so nice?
Right. Set the bar high for 'em.
Actually,
Yeah.
I know why I'm being so nice, because I know what I scored the burger, and it is the meanest thing.
No, they scored themselves like that.
I mean, that's fair.
Right, yeah.
That's fair. I am just a conduit.
Right.
I'm just
You're
a messenger.
reminding them, right. I'm just reminding you.
Woof. What do you score the chicken slider?
The chicken, I gave it an 8. I did. I did. I gave it an 8. And then
I'm sitting here going 2s, and you're like,
but
I'm
now
going
that I
8.
think about it, I wrote down 8, and because I'm being transparent, I wrote down 8. But when my son and I was talking, I was eating, I did down it down to a 6.
Okay.
So the reason why it's been years till we've been, but keep in mind the burgers were first. So when they came with the chicken part, it was beautiful because I ordered chicken even from Crystal's.
You're talking about when you used to go?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the chicken came out because chicken came later. So that's why when we met, I mentioned the chicken first. I'm like, dude, the chicken here, is excellent.
And I'm like, no, this is the burger-specific episode. You're like, you got to try the chicken.
For some reason, they used to put mayo and pickles on it. I know Crystal do. So these chickens came plain. And,
yes.
They're
everything.
Horrible to eat plain.
Yeah.
Do not eat these chicken littles plain.
No, get a sauce.
You got to get a sauce.
I don't care what sauce.
Right.
It needs wetness.
Sauce, right. And the sauces were bland. Though it had the brand imprinted on it for White Castle.
Yeah.
The mayo was just a white like substance that just went on top. It tastes like mayo. The ketchup was bland also. So I'm assuming that
it was just packet ketchup.
Yeah,
and packet mustard. And packet mayo.
They don't buy quality products as far as their,
look no further than the chicken patty. Like it's very clear that they're cutting corners.
Right. Got to be at either Tyson or somewhere. When they get Crozier stuff, they put stuff to the side for White Castle. It has to be. They do have to up their game as far as the quality of the meat.
I don't think they're gonna. I don't see them changing. Like, this is kind of their brand.
Sad, right?
We're shitty, and if you're drunk, you'll eat us. And we're cheap, and you get quantity over quality.
That's true.
That's the White Castle way.
That is true.
So,
yeah.
All right. And then before we do the Septemburger bit, I did get the chocolate shake. Yeah.
Okay.
And it tasted like they copied a Frosty from Wendy's. Can't be mad about that.
Right.
So it's a 7.5 out of 10. Begrudgingly, I'm giving them something that was all right.
Okay.
But also, how do you mess up a chocolate shake?
Right.
Unless you're using like expired milk or dairy or whatever you have in there.
Right.
You can't mess up a milkshake.
Right.
So to their credit, it didn't set my world on fire, but it was a competently good milkshake.
That's good.
So 7.5 out of 10.
I got the mozzarella sticks. I was off the wall.
Oh, you did. That's
I did.
right.
And, those are definitely a 3 out of 10. I'm not gonna lie, 3 out of 10.
Yeah.
The reason why I gave it 3, the breading was better. I wish the breading was consistent across the board, but the breading was different. Had a real Italian seasoning.
You mean it was
taste.
better than like the other breaded things, like the chicken and the onion?
Correct.
Okay.
This was the best bread out of all. The was processed. Didn't have a pool, of course. And the marinara sauce was kind of like a soupy ketchup. Wasn't really marinara. So yeah, it's 3 definitely. We didn't even eat them all.
I only finished my chicken slider. There was nothing else in this meal that I finished.
Right.
Okay. I think it's time. We gotta get down to it. The burger, the beef slider. The entrant into Septemburger that will go up against Shake Shack next week. And then maybe they'll advance to the second round, but they're not. This sucked. This is the worst burger I have ever had in my life.
I agree with you.
This beef slider is just it's bad.
Horrible.
It's an abomination. So it has little cut up onions, and it has pickle.
Right.
And then was it mustard?
So mustard and ketchup.
Mustard, ketchup, and
the little slice
and a bunch. I got mine without the cheese. And I took a bite.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, no. Let's talk about the smell.
Right.
This smelled like a shoe store.
Right.
I've been here before to try and buy new Adidas Sambas. This smelled like that. I'm not being hyperbolic. It had like a leathery...
No, I get you.
Like, or they sprayed it with something like a waterproofing. I don't know.
Either that, and then also what I smelled, which because I'm a local, I smelled the lure of the casino next door. So it was the
when
smell
your
of
food smells like a casino. What an endorsement!
Because you can smell the smoke, the cigarette smoke and the cigars. You it seeps over there, so it still reminds you that you're in Vegas, like you're in the casino still. So I kind of smelt that mixture. which it throws off because when you go to a restaurant, the smell triggers, you know. Yeah. So when you go there, it's kind of like that triggers like, you sure you want this? You sure?
It's like when you have to approve to use your debit card. Are you sure?
You sure? Oh, man.
Yeah. We have to give a score to the beef slider. This is, like I said, this is the worst burger I've ever had.
I agree with you.
But I imagine that it is possible to do worse than this. So I'm going to score this out of 10, a 0.13.
Ooh.
That is what I think of the White Castle beef slider.
The beef slider? Yeah, I actually will agree with you. I would give it I'm going to give it a 1.3. I'll give it a 1.3.
You give it a 1.3.
1.3.
So when we put our scores together, let's see. 1.3 and 0.13. That means that for Septemburger, the score that Shake Shack needs to beat is a 0.72.
They're going to blow them out the water. Definitely.
Yeah. I thought that the food at White Castle, very easily, I can give 2 thumbs down to.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
That's
most
it.
Definitely. And it's not healthy.
And it's not healthy.
Right.
Yeah. So that does it for the food. We're going to put this all together into a final rating, but before we can do that, we have to turn to Yelp and see what other people are saying about this White Castle location in this week's Yelp from Strangers.
We need a little Yelp, a little Yelp, a little Yelp from strangers. A 1-star, 2-star, 3-star, 4 or 5. So get a little Yelp, a little Yelp, a little Yelp from strangers. A little Yelp, a little Yelp. Give us those complaints while you literally whine and die. Yelp!
All right, this is Yelp from Strangers, our segment where we go to Yelp and read out our favorite 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5-star Yelp reviews of the very restaurant that we dined at. Coyal, do you mind if I go first?
Oh, no, go ahead.
1-star review.
I'm going to start us off with what needs to be said, the 1-star review about this White Castle.
Okay.
This is from Robert D. from Tucson, Arizona, April 19th, 2024.
Okay.
I went in 2 days ago on a Wednesday evening in mid-April at about 6 p.m., and it pains me it was the worst dining experience I've ever had. I wouldn't say that for me, but it was the worst burger.
Right.
It took 8 or 9 minutes to get 6 White Castle hamburgers at $1.39 each. Fine. The dining area was filthy, with smeared tables and left behind rubbish, although the rubbish might just have been left where it was because the garbage cans were overflowing.
Wow.
The odd thing was, a young lady came out to mop the floor without lifting a finger to clean the tables or empty the overflowing trash receptacles.
Wow.
I found that odd. That is fun. You know, when you just you're too overwhelmed by part of the mess, you're like, you know what? That could be someone else's problem. I'll do.
Right.
Yeah. The hamburgers, stale, tough, and tasteless. I have been eating White Castle hamburgers since they were 12 cents, and never once had I ever before been presented with such inedible, stale, tasteless food.
Wow.
There wasn't even an aroma of onions on the griddle. I specifically stayed at a hotel within walking distance so I could eat White Castles for Wednesday dinner and Thursday breakfast. That's crazy.
It is.
That's a crazy way to live your life.
Yes.
But after the debacle on Wednesday, I changed my mind. Memories of a lifetime were destroyed with one simple substandard meal. 1 star. Thanks, Robert D.
Right.
Yeah, that feels like what you would expect from a White Castle review.
Yeah, that was accurate.
4-star review.
So this is a 4-star for White Castle, and this is from Dave L. out in Philly. Shouts out to Philly, Pennsylvania. And this was on April 16th of 2023. So come on, y'all know exactly what you're getting when you go here.
Just because we know what we're like, you know you're going to get punched in the face. That doesn't make it 4 stars.
He says, there are quite a few White Castle locations in Vegas, and this is one. I don't even know the name of the casino it's part of, but it's not far from the Denny's on the Strip. So this White Castle has a simple menu. You can get their standard slider, maybe the chicken, and definitely the fish. Ooh,
that seems like a risk. Seafood at a White Castle?
I wonder, is there you have to sign something.
A waiver?
A waiver for the fish.
Can I get a fish slider?
Right,
yes, sir. Can you just
right? You
sign
sure
this
you
real
want
quick?
that? Right. So there's no fox meat impossible, which
faux meat,
like this vegetarian and all that. Yeah. Slider for sale here. They've got breakfast options, but I haven't dared to go there. I wouldn't either.
Yeah.
And I stick to 2 to 3 sliders and a cup of coffee. That's a crucial mixture. That's like a recipe for a bomb.
Coffee and 2 to 3 sliders?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. If you gotta satisfy a drunk craving for White Castle, I guess go here. This spot will rock your digestive system, literally. I added the literally.
4 stars.
Right.
Yeah. Well, just true. I don't understand how those combination of words equals a 4-star review.
I don't either.
People are too nice.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Or unless he fat fingered it, the stars.
Yeah. You can go download our full Yelp from Strangers segment at our Patreon. The link for that is in the description of this episode, or you can go to patreon.com/finediningpodcast. And we're now offering a 1-week free trial, so what do you have to lose? Go check it out. People have wild opinions, and we get to read oh so many of them. Thanks. Okay, Coyal, we have to put all this together into our final rating. Now, I've done this podcast 60, 70, 80 something times. I've lost count of how many restaurants I've been to. This is your first time on fine dining. So before you can rate properly, I need you to calibrate your scale. So we're going to stop by the calibration station.
Calibration station, comparing this meal to the best of the worst. Calibration station, chugga, 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 choo, choo.
Now, in the calibration station, I just need you to tell me very briefly, what is the 0, the worst restaurant experience you've ever had, and what is the 10?
So my worst experience out here in Las Vegas is a pub and grill place I went to. It's not too far from my home. And what's crazy is there's at least 8 or 10 of them that are in the Vegas Valley.
They are a chain.
They are a chain.
Yeah.
Their food is horrible.
Just consistently bad.
And I think the median range of people who eat there are 55 to 70. And it's old school, but there's a lot. The outside will fool you because the outside are new. But once you go in and you look at the menu, it's kind of like Denny's back in the 50s. And then the everything's processed.
Yeah,
everything's processed.
Yeah.
So that was one of the worst experiences.
I won't ask you to name drop. You don't need to put anyone on blast. But
because with this place too, I'll definitely be in the back of a Lincoln. So I'm gonna name them.
Yeah. And then the best. What's your 10 out of 10?
The best one is top of the world, and that is on top of the stratosphere.
Oh, okay.
Top of the world,
and the food's
down,
amazing.
Excellent. Oh my God, the food and the experience. When I went there, I had some tangerine pork chop with this tangerine sauce on it. It had the mashed potatoes that were loaded, and I've never seen loaded mashed potatoes that was just it was just excellent. The presentation of it, everything, and then not only that, it rotates around the city,
so you get that view,
slow rotate,
constantly changing.
Right. But I recommend going right before sunset.
Yeah.
So you can catch the little daylight, and then also you can experience it at night if you go during that time.
Sounds nice. Awesome. So that's your 0, that's your 10. White Castle, where does it fall between those two things? If you have to put a number, a score on your White Castle experience overall, where's it landing?
Final rating.
Now, if the pub and grill was at a 0,
yep, and the
this
stratosphere
food was worse, that's why I called it bar food. It was worse than their bar food.
Yeah,
I don't know if this is done before, but that has to be a -1. They have to fall negative.
Not even just the food. Overall, you think White Castle is a negative score?
The negative. Now that I think about it, and we put everything together, it is negative.
Okay, well, I'll let you go 0.
0?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go 0.
You're going
I'm going
0 on White Castle.
Dead 0.
There was nothing redeeming about this experience.
Nothing redeeming about it. I think when we started, I did give it a 2.3, and that was on the strength because of the kids. You know,
right.
I'm a family man. I said I'll give it that because of the kids on the strength.
But this is your experience.
This is me, 0.
0.
There's no way that I'm going to sit here and lie and give them that leeway when they have to step their game up. They have to step their game up.
So I'm definitely more generous than you on this.
Okay.
I went into this White Castle thinking, the place looks kind of clean. You know, I went 1 thumb down on the atmosphere. It's whatever. It's fine. The service, it didn't register to me. It was just there. It was a thing. It was transactional. Best way to put it. This food was bad, but I can't tank the score down as low as you did off of service that wasn't bad, off of an atmosphere that, wasn't the worst it could be.
Correct.
So for me, White Castle, I'm going to go 2.22.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Which means when I get back to Los Angeles, the tchotchke of mediocrity, my giant scoreboard of all the restaurants that I've been to, is going to have a new worst restaurant, because when you average our scores together, White Castle goes up on the tchotchke at 1.11 out of 10.
Right where they belong.
White Castle definitively less than mediocre.
Yeah.
Less than mediocre, not quite as good as Cracker Barrel.
We already know next week, the final first round match gets concluded. White Castle versus Shake Shack.
Oh.
So next week, I will be going to Shake Shack, and we'll conclude the first round, and then you can finish Septemburger out on my Patreon to hear the semifinals and the finals, see who takes home that Septemburger championship belt. Who's it gonna be? I don't know, but I'm pretty confident it's not gonna be White Castle. Coyal, thank you so much for joining me, for putting your body through what you went through to endure White Castle. Is there anything you want to say to people? Do you want to plug one more time where people can find you on social media?
Oh, yeah. Definitely, you guys visit Vegas Places with Coyal, where we highlight small business owners out here in Las Vegas. And you can check us out on all social media platforms as Visit Vegas Places. If not, go to the website, visitvegasplaces.com, and check out the podcast on all streaming platforms.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on. We didn't find the most mediocre restaurant in America. The search does, in fact, continue. And you can follow me on social media at Fine Dining Podcast, Instagram, TikTok, finediningpodcast.com. Check out my Patreon, all the good things. But YouTube is really where I prefer you check me out, because I'm putting a lot of effort into making these video episodes. You can see this wonderful restaurant. Thanks again one more time to World of Wings for letting me shoot here. The search continues. We'll see you next time. Have a fine day.
The search continues. We still need the perfect five. The search continues. Like and subscribe. The search continues. Our journey did not conclude. The mother effing search continues. Write us an iTunes review. And hey, while you're at it, why don't you go ahead and make it 5 stars, huh? Come on. Follow us on TikTok, the same on Instagram, all the socials at Fine Dining Podcast. We have a website, finediningpodcast.com. Buy our t-shirts, then put them on. And don't forget, you can always suggest where we go next. Okay, we're going to find it. Mediocrity. The search continues. See you next week. Hurt my throat a little.
Have a fine day.